You're listening to the Entrepreneur Ignited podcast, where we aim to simplify online business so you can make more money. Now, here's your host, Derek Gehl.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Ignited podcast. This is your host, Derek Gehl, and in this episode, I want to share with you 7 strategies to secure your WordPress website. You know, the fact is, WordPress is a behemoth now. It's the number one website building platform in the world. It has far surpassed Joomla, Drupal, any other platform out there. And with its popularity, it's become a target too as well for hackers. Now, does that mean WordPress isn't secure? No, WordPress is still very, very secure. But the fact is you need to take some steps to make sure your website is locked down and secure as well. And I talk to people all the time, clients, members of my communities and stuff, who are all running WordPress websites, and on occasion someone gets hacked. And 9 times out of 10, when they get hacked, if they had been doing the 7 things I'm about to share with you, it would not have been an issue. All right. The old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, is so true. If you do these 7 things, the likelihood of you becoming a victim of a hack is very, very slim. You know, I liken this to Macs and Microsoft, Apple versus Microsoft. Now I'm an Apple user, and there's lots of people out there that stand up and say, you know, Macs are far less vulnerable to viruses. And, you know, I'm sure the techies out there could argue one way or the other on a very technical level, but the fact of the matter is 90% plus of the systems in the world run Microsoft. So when hackers are out there creating tools to exploit vulnerabilities, they're going to go after the biggest fish that has the biggest opportunity, and that's Windows, that's Microsoft. They're a much bigger target than Mac and iOS, or OS X, is. So, again, you know, WordPress is a big target. That doesn't mean it's any less secure or more secure than Joomla, Drupal, or any of the equivalent systems out there. That just means I think there's a whole lot more people trying to break into it. And the other thing that you need to realize is most of the hacks that happen isn't one guy just sitting at a computer surfing through websites trying to hack their way into your website when they come across yours. Rather, it's software, it's bots that are going out there looking for vulnerabilities and then using kind of brute force to try and break into websites or exploit vulnerabilities that may exist. And so here are 7 things you can do to lock up your WordPress website. And if you do this, you are going to dramatically reduce the chance that you are going to become a victim of an attack. And look, guys, the fact is if you spend an hour implementing this stuff, cleaning things up now, this can save you an absolute ton of time later. All right, so here's 7 things. It's going to be quick. Make sure you have your pen handy, or if you don't, because you're wandering around listening to this podcast, you can come back and write it down later. Or, actually, I will include all of the links to all of the tools that I reference in the show notes for this podcast as well. So you can just listen, learn, check out the website later. In the podcast and the show notes, you'll find links to all the tools that I've recommended here. So, first and foremost, when you are setting your WordPress website up, the default username is admin. The first thing you need to do is go in and create another admin user under a different username and go back and delete the admin user. The very first thing someone is going to try is to guess, using software, the admin's password, and they'll use username admin. If that user doesn't exist, it is a non-issue, period. End of story, okay? So if you have admin as a admin user in WordPress right now, go in there and delete it. Now, your next step is passwords. Use strong passwords. It blows my mind how often people are using passwords that are their kids' names, their birthday, stuff like that. Stuff that is either easy to guess, or if somebody's doing what's called a brute force attack, just running a dictionary against it, has a chance of guessing. Your passwords should be 12 characters or more, and they should be a combination of numbers and letters, uppercase, lowercase, and if you want to make them really strong, symbols. So hash signs, dollar signs, colon, stuff like that. Something that the likelihood of ever being to auto-generate and guess that password is nil. All right? So strong passwords are key. Now, here's the other place that a lot of people fall down with their WordPress websites is it may be your website, so you might think to yourself, well, I have a strong password, I've deleted admin, but you have other users on that website. Maybe you have a designer or a blogger or somebody that helps you manage the website that has admin access or privileges, and you've allowed them to create their own password. This is where you need to have a password policy where nobody can create stupidly simple passwords, because that's all good and well if you have a hard password, but somebody else is using a basic, easy to decode password on your website. And this also comes down to number 3 here is managing your users properly. So ensuring that they're using strong passwords, but also, and I've had this happen, I'm guilty of this. Somebody comes in, we've hired them to work on the website, they've had administrative access, and then 3 months later I log in and still see that their admin account is sitting there. So as people access your website, make sure you're disabling their access after they've logged out, not leaving those accounts sitting out there unattended to. Okay, so recap where we are. Number 1, delete your admin user. Period. End of story. Number 2, strong passwords. And if you want help generating strong passwords, just go to Google and type in strong password generator. And you'll find all sorts of websites that are designed to just randomly create really strong passwords. Number 3, manage your users properly and make sure they're using strong passwords. Which brings us to strategy number 4. Now, again, when somebody is looking to break into a WordPress website or hack it, they're going to go straight to the standard login page, the WP admin login, which is /WP-admin. And so if you move that page somewhere else on the website, and they're using software that's automatically looking for that page to try and break into it, well, they're not going to find it. So that's another way to make your website more difficult. And there's lots of plugins out there that you can utilize to change the URL of your WordPress login page from /WP-admin to somewhere else, somewhere totally random, /ABC, /17654, whatever you want, but only you and your team will know where that is. So people can't just automatically go there and start trying to break in because they don't even know where it is. All right, so get rid of the WP admin. And again, to do that, if you go into the plugins directory on WordPress and search change WP admin, you'll find there's lots of plugins that will help you do that. All right, that was number 4. Now on to strategy number 5. And this is kind of a broad strategy, but it's an important strategy. And that is choose your plugins and your themes wisely. All right. And the reason this is so important is now that WordPress has grown and evolved, when you go, for example, to the plugin directory on WordPress.org, it's a little bit misleading because if you search there, it'll say over 33,000 plugins. But the fact is a large majority of those plugins have been neglected, have never been updated, are not current and approved for use with the most current version of WordPress. So again, choose your plugins and themes wisely, and make sure that the developer is constantly updating them as well so that they are compatible with the latest version of WordPress, which you should always have as well. So choose your plugins and themes wisely, and then make sure that you are always keeping those up to date, both the WordPress core, your theme, and your plugins. Many of the releases of plugin updates, theme updates, and WordPress core updates actually contain security updates, and they're plugging known holes and bugs. So if you're not updating, you effectively are leaving holes open on your website for hackers to exploit. And a couple other things, all plugins and all themes are not created equally. And that's why when I'm buying a plugin or a theme or using a plugin or a theme, I want to know that it's coming from a good developer, a developer that has coding standards. So if you're buying from a Woo Themes or an Elegant Themes or a Code Canyon or a WPMU Dev, typically those are going to be higher quality plugins that are supported, that are updated as WordPress is updated, and they're much higher quality than something that's been hacked together by, some guy and thrown up in the plugins directory. I'm not saying there isn't gold in some of those plugins, but I'm saying choose them wisely. And last but not least, in this theme of choosing your plugins and themes wisely, make sure you're never using a pirated version of a commercial theme or a plugin. And I've seen this before where somebody, in some cases, unknowingly buys a theme or a plugin that has been effectively pirated. And what you're missing there is the automatic updates and the notifications of updates because you don't have a registered version of it. So be cautious of that as well. All right, so choose your plugins, themes wisely, and make sure that the plugin, the theme, your WordPress core is always, always up to date. Every single week, I have a team member that goes through all of our websites and updates, runs all the updates. And once an update is run, the reason I have somebody do this is because I want them to test and make sure nothing was broken. But any good theme developer or plugin developer knows that when you're releasing updates, it's got to be backwards compatible and can't break stuff. So rarely do we ever have an issue with that. All right, tip number 6 out of 7, use a security plugin. And a security plugin is a plugin that's constantly not constantly, but on a regular basis, scanning your website, looking for vulnerabilities, looking for changes in code, looking for malicious code, looking for malware, anything that could have been injected into your website, to make sure that there isn't something weird going on. Typically, when somebody hacks a WordPress website, they're going to change some of the core code depending on how they've hacked it. And plugins like Wordfence will catch that. And they have lots of other features as well to block attacks and stuff like that. So Wordfence is my favorite plugin. And again, I'll include a link to it in the show notes. And the good news is the free version is very powerful, and the free version is just about good enough for pretty much anybody out there. They offer a premium version that you can pay for, and I have paid for it. And the one thing that I like about the premium version versus the free version, you need to go in and run the scans manually. And if you're going to schedule the time to go and do that, great. I don't want to have to worry about it. So I have the premium version that does a deeper scan of your files and is also, you can schedule it to scan on a regular basis and report if it comes across something odd. Okay, so once again, Wordfence, the free one is fine, but if you don't want to have to worry about it, forget, get the paid one. And Wordfence is kind of like a virus scanner, like the virus scan you may run on your computer. It's being updated and it's referencing a big database of known viruses, known stuff like that. And Wordfence is doing the same thing. The company that runs it keeps a big database of malicious files, malware, stuff like that in the WordPress world. And so they're always checking for known stuff and protecting your website from that. So it's dead easy. I mean, the main plugin's free, and if you want to set and forget it, you pay a few bucks. I mean, for peace of mind, I don't see why you wouldn't want to do that. Which brings us to our last tip. And this is the fallback, okay? If everything else goes sideways, your website gets hacked, gets wiped out, you want to make sure you have a backup. And I find it absolutely shocking how many WordPress websites exist out there that are not being backed up on at least a weekly basis. And this is so unnecessary because there are backup plugins that will back up your website for you every single week. And Now, here's what I've come across. Some people say to me, oh, yeah, I back up my website every week. And then I say, well, where's the backup stored? And they say, well, it's on my server with my website. So they're backing up using something in WordPress, maybe a duplicator plugin, something like that. But then the actual backup file stored in their WordPress admin. So if somebody hacked their website and wiped it out, they'd take all the backups with them. So to do a proper backup, you want a plugin that is backing up your website on a regular basis, but then taking that backup and placing it somewhere else so that if your website ever does get deleted, hacked, or something just goes sideways, you can restore it from an off-site backup. Now, hands down, my favorite plugin for this today is a plugin called Updraft Plus. And Updraft Plus, again, you can get it for free. The only difference between the free version and the paid version is the paid version. Actually, no, that's not even true. The free version, you can schedule it. And the best part about Updraft Plus is it will back up your website, your entire WordPress website, and then it'll take that backup file on a schedule that you specify, and it will put it in your Dropbox account, on your Google Drive account, in your Amazon S3 account, and it does it for you all automatically. And this plugin is free. Updraft Plus is probably the most popular backup plugin. They have a premium version that has some add-on features, including better support and possibly more support for backing up to multiple different areas. And I would encourage you to check it out. But I think Updraft Plus, the free version, is good enough for the majority of single WordPress websites out there. And again, it's a set and forget. You schedule it, and then once a week, once every couple days, a full backup's created. It's dropped onto your Dropbox, your Google Drive, your Amazon S3, off-site of the server where your website is. So again, if everything blows up and your website is hacked or something crazy happens, your server catches fire, it's all gone, you do have a backup off-site. So guys, 7 simple things. Delete your admin user. Use strong passwords. Manage your users properly, making sure they're using strong passwords, deleting them when they're no longer active. Change the URL for the WP admin login page. Pretty simple, guys. Use a free plugin to do that. Choose your plugins and themes wisely. Make sure they're from a reputable developer. Make sure they're up to date and compatible with the latest version of WordPress. And make sure you're updating them on a regular basis. Implement a security plugin like Wordfence, which is going to constantly scan for malicious files, help you secure that website. And finally, make sure you're using an automated backup plugin to back up off-site. And if you're doing that and you're utilizing a good web host that's also securing your server properly, the likelihood of being targeted by a hacker drops substantially. I mean, the fact is, unless you're a major organization, a Microsoft, a Yahoo, a NASA, or a big corporation, if you're just running small websites, the likelihood of becoming a target where an actual hacker sits down in front of his computer and says, how am I breaking into this website, is actually quite low for the average small business. But where you do have vulnerabilities is when you're not securing your website and somebody can just use a piece of software that's scanning through WordPress websites looking for vulnerabilities. And when they find one in your website, then they use software just to break in. Once they're in, they're in. So securing it using these strategies will prevent the majority of that and lock your website down. So remember, ounce of prevention worth a pound of cure. What I just shared with you, not going to take you long to implement. You want all the links to all the resources and tools I just talked about? No problem. Head on over to entrepreneurignited.com/podcast. Find this episode, and in the show notes, you will find links to everything we just talked about. Don't put it off. Seriously. It's like insurance. This is insurance for your website. And the only time we regret not having insurance is when we need it. So don't make yourself a target. Lock this down and take these simple steps. So there you go. And once again, hope you guys took something out of this episode. I'm always aiming to give you guys real stuff that you can take away, that you can apply, that you can use. I've got a ton of great episodes scheduled, some fantastic powerful interviews coming down the pipe, along with lots more training for you. So once again, if you haven't done so yet and you are an iTunes user, please head over to iTunes, leave me a rating, leave me a review. That helps this podcast grow in popularity, and make sure you're subscribed on iTunes. If you're not an iTunes user, you can find us on SoundCloud as well. And also at any time, head over to entrepreneurignited.com/podcast. You can stream the episodes live from there, as well as get full transcripts and show notes. So there you go. Hope you guys took something away from this, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye for now.
You're listening to the Entrepreneur Ignited podcast, where we aim to simplify online business so you can make more money.